Well, hello there, Rob.
Hi, Candace. How you doing?
Good. So we are already at episode 2 of...
It's only been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks, but we are now doing episode 2 of This Creeps Me Out. We had a slight delay.
Just a slight one.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
Which creeps me out.
Yeah, which does creep me out. We could do an episode on COVID and how it creeps us out.
Possibly we got COVID while doing that episode.
No, possibly
You gave me. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus.
No, it's okay. You can throw me under the bus because I can throw Kevin under the bus and say I got it from him. So, but I never got any symptoms or sick at all. Meanwhile, you...
I was bedridden for a week.
you, Kevin, and Kyle were like the Walking Dead.
It was severe muscle aches and fatigue. But, I mean, that's the worst of it in comparison to other worse variations, and sometimes I am happy to say that was it. So
yeah, you got the Nepercomic-Con or whatever it's called.
Totally fine with it, and I'm doing better now. Slightly tired, but nothing that a Dunkin' Large iced coffee can handle.
I'm still fatigued as well, but I'm not sure if that's COVID or if I'm just fat and lazy. So
who knows?
It could be a mix of both. It could be COVID. I should blame COVID,
but I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about today, which is urban legends, because this has creeped me out since I'm going to go with like 4 or 5 years old.
I distinctly remember being a child, and I have 4 siblings, and then I have 2 step siblings. And we used to read scary stories to tell in the dark, in the dark. And that's basically all urban legends.
Yeah. So. And also the illustrations in that are terrifying.
Hell. And I don't know why everybody had a copy of that book growing up. Like, all kids had it. Everybody had it.
There was something about our generation, which I feel like we're now dating ourselves, that as kids, we had a bunch of really scary books. Like, at least for Philip, my brother. Well, we had like a lot of like Halloween centric books, which I'm thinking I'm blaming on that. My obsession with Halloween started from conception.
I mean, that makes sense. What books did you have besides scary stories?
We had a Halloween joke book when we were kids.
Really?
Yeah, and we would gather in my brother's room, and then we would read the joke stories.
There's 2 of you. Gather in your brother's room.
My dad and my mom would come in, and we would then tell these stories, these jokes, and we would memorize the entire book. So we knew all the jokes, but like there were cute little illustrations. My brother had little books about like The Witch in the Woods and like all these cute little books, which I loved, and to me that's why Halloween was so special.
That's fair. I mean, I remember when we used to go to the Poconos on vacation, like when we were like not super little, probably like elementary school. Mm-hmm. And we would go to these, like, my dad would take us to these like outlets and antique places. And I remember at one of them we got like a bunch of books. Like one of them was about Dracula, one of them was like ghost stories.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we did have kind of a similar thing.
Which I think every kid should have a little collection of Halloween stories and ghost stories.
Totally just have really inappropriate stories for a 7-year-old.
Well, there were like jokes about the blood bank, like where vampires go to get their drinks.
Oh, yeah.
The blood bank. Or like,
I haven't forgotten the book at all.
What is the mommy ghost tell the baby ghost when they get in the car? Put on your sheet belt.
Oh my god.
But this is like
Dad
ingrained
jokes for Halloween. Yeah.
Oh yeah, in my head, which was great. But another part, a scary, creepy part of the childhood was definitely these urban legends. And
oh yeah, I distinctly remember having like issues with like being afraid of things that were never going to happen.
Now, how did you receive urban legends as a kid? I mean, we did not have access like we do now to like Wikipedia or the internet. So
well, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, scary stories to tell in the dark.
So a book.
Yeah, but I mean, I also know that like, especially older siblings, you are the older of you and Phil, so you didn't necessarily get this completely. But my older siblings did love to tell me and Kevin some stories and stuff to freak us out.
So then they're passing on through oral tradition.
Yeah.
The stories that they've heard from maybe friends.
Which is,
or...
with urban legends, that typically is the...
It is like the way
the way they're transmitted.
It's about like the oral communication, which goes back to kind of like stories around the campfire and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Campfire stories, folklore, that kind of stuff. They're all urban legends. So.
Which I think that's why I kind of love them. It's because I kind of get like, I love this way of like transmission of stories and heritage through just kind of like talking and telling the tales. I obviously love like textual tradition, like the written stories as well, but there's something because I'm a nerd. But there's something I think magical about a story being passed down from generation to generation, and then how like a bad game of telephone, how the story then is changed and altered. So I think it's kind of fun. So you see all these variations to a story that may have started completely different.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
which I think we're going to see today, especially, I know, with...
Oh, for sure, because I have some of these with... Because my good gal pal Wikipedia has yet again supplied most of the information for today's episode. So
Wikipedia was not that helpful for me for my
Really?
favorite urban legend, which is Bloody Mary.
Well, do you want to start that?
I think we have to start with Bloody Mary.
Okay, I agree, because that was a big one for me as a kid. I was very afraid of the bathroom in the dark.
So how were you told about Bloody Mary?
My stepsister Kara.
So she was like...
Oh, yeah, she told... I can't remember... We used to do the weirdest shit as kids. We used to stay up late and like watch movies and talk and like all that fun stuff. And I would have been about 6. So like I watched the first Scream movie when I was 6 years old, or 7. I think it came out in 97.
It's inherently problematic.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was terrified.
Yeah.
So I forget why it came up. She probably, I think a lot of it came from, like, she would go to, like, sleepovers with her friends.
Okay.
And the same with, like, my older sister, Jess. Like, you know, go to sleepovers with your friends. You hear these things, and then, of course, you use them to
Then scare.
torture and terrorize your younger sibling.
Well, it is the job of an older sibling, I feel like, to torture the younger sibling.
They took their job very seriously.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, right. They were very committed.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I found out about Bloody Mary, and it scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, terrified.
We were told, kind of like the typical, like, stand in front of the mirror in the dark. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if you had to have a candle or not.
Which I'll get into kind of the specifics of it.
Yeah.
But, like,
there's,
it's all
differences,
about...
right?
Oh, yeah. There's, like, get in front of a mirror, say the name Bloody Mary.
3 times. Or I guess that changes 2 depending on the variation.
It does, yeah.
For us, it was 3 times. And then, she'll come and take your old fat ass to hell. So
So for you, it was, she'll come and she'll just take you to hell.
Well, to hell, whatever she was going to do with us, I can't remember. We're going to die.
But,
That's
like, it was never a good thing to summon Bloody Mary.
No, it was always, she wasn't going to show up with a pie. She was going to show up and fucking murder me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard the same thing when I was a kid. I remember distinctly hearing it actually in dance class. So I know.
Of all the places, Bloody Mary in dance class.
I took
You're surrounded by mirrors, maybe that's why.
Well, we were at dance class. Like, I took a class at the rec center. I did, like, tap and contemporary. Mm-hmm. I was not very good. So much so, there's a funny anecdote about this, that when I was a kid in dance class, my brother, who's younger than me, had to kind of come and just sit. So my mom just, like, sat and watched in the rec room, and then my brother was there just watching. My brother is a very talented dancer.
Yeah, he is. He can dance.
He's very good. But he was very good, like, when he was probably 6.
Oh, I mean, that's a natural talent.
Yeah, so he, though, is watching my dances all the time, and he became very good. He learned the entire choreography of the entire dance. Of this so one, cute. It was this, like, very new age contemporary, like a hatching of a bird. So the main, it was so stupid. The main dancer, the primary role, was supposed to be this, like, little egg, and that they then emerged as a bird. And I was not very good, so I was one of the girls who had to flap around with my arms very close to my body, running around in a circle.
Like a little T-Rex.
Yeah, a little T-Rex running around in a circle on this, like, hatching, beautiful, elegant bird. So I was not thrilled with my role, but this is all I was capable of doing, was running around in a circle and flapping my wings.
And in the 90s, they told you if you were not capable of something.
They did. There was no participation trophy.
Yeah, no, they were like, get your little ass up and flap like a little bird around this egg.
But my brother knew all the roles, right?
Yeah.
Come performance day, which was in the rec center, nothing really crazy. Yeah. The main girl was sick. So the dance teacher asks my brother to step in as the leading role.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Not one of the other kids?
Not one of the girls who was doing this for weeks. It was, he knows what to do. So he gets the starring role.
Of course
in a class he did not take, while I'm flapping around him like a little T-Rex.
To be fair, I feel like this is Phil's origin story, knowing how he is now. That probably is what turned Phil into who Phil is today.
Oh, I think so. This is like, this is how he is, Philip. So yeah, he had the starring role.
That's hilarious.
And that's like the second most frightening thing I learned in dance class. The first was Bloody Mary.
Oh yes, of course.
So we were like at a dance break, and then one of the girls in class was telling us about the story of Bloody Mary, saying if you go into the bathroom, and it was like the bathroom of dance class. She's like, go in there, turn the lights off, sit in front of the mirror, and like I think like spin in a circle too and say Bloody Mary 3 times.
I remember that. I feel like we had that.
Yeah, you have to like turn around 3 times or something while saying it.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
And then if you stare in the mirror, she will then appear to you. And she was telling me another part of legend that it's like if you look at mirrors later on, she's going to like be there.
Oh, that's freaky as fuck.
So I was, I think, like 8 or 9 years old, fucking terrified
of
this. So I remember going home that night and like having a fucking panic attack.
Oh no.
That I could not sleep.
Yeah.
Even I was telling my brother this morning about it and he was like, oh my God, I remember you crying and screaming, being like, Bloody Mary's coming for me. And like hiding in like the corner, afraid to look into mirrors because I was gonna swear that she was there going to like either like scratch me or take me to wherever she was gonna take me.
Okay.
And still to this day, I get a little uneasy, like late at night, looking in the mirror. Like it's it's kind of like one of those things that like stayed with me.
I love mirrors.
Somebody's vain.
Somebody's gotta love mirrors, right? And I'm one of those people.
But it's a legend that sticks with a lot of people, and they talk about how the legend is often, as you mentioned, like passed down through a sibling, or it's through like a sleepover aspect, which like your sister could have learned from a sleepover and told you that story. For me, it was in a dance class, and then like this gaggle of students, and then we're discussing kind of creepy things, and I unfortunately got extremely creeped out.
Did you ever do it?
Yeah, well, I did it in the bathroom, and that's where I went home.
Oh, did you say that? I'm sorry.
I it's fine. I
totally missed it. I'm sorry.
But then, like, I was terrified that night, thinking that, like, I conjured her. She's going to then get me in any mirror that I'm seeing. So
how long did you avoid mirrors for?
Oh, I'm gonna go with, like, a week. I was terrified. Like, a hard week. And then, like, I remember asking my mom to call the mother of the girl who told me the story and be like, can you please confirm this is not real? And I was like, my anxiety started at a very young age.
That poor woman was probably like, oh my God.
I was like, stop telling kids about Bloody Mary. I mean, Susan.
It's hard because, like, I feel like, especially like with urban legends, people generally, I always think of like some like 80s horror movie because a lot of like Jason, all those, they kind of have like an urban legend feel to them.
Well, yeah, like it's like an old Halloween-esque, like you heard the story before.
Yeah, I remember like even in the 90s, like telling that kind of thing, like parents just kind of like laughed it off. It was like, it wouldn't, like today they'd be mad if your child like did that, but like in the 90s it wasn't like a thing.
I don't...
She was probably like, Susan, stop telling people about Bloody Mary.
Yeah, but Candace. For me, I'm like, still to this day, shook. So, Susan, F you for ruining me. But the legend of Bloody Mary is very strange because I would have thought, like, what is the origin of Bloody Mary? And that's what I was trying to figure out doing my research today. Like, who is she?
Where is she?
Who is she?
Carmen Sandiego of urban legends.
And I was looking into it, and like there are so many different hypotheses about who Bloody Mary could be.
Yeah.
Some of them seem absolutely ridiculous. But the names that people suggest are Mary Tudor, who was the Mary First of England. So she was the one who then killed all the Protestants, and it was a bloody reign. Her father was Henry VIII.
See what you did there.
Bloody And so they're like, oh, maybe it was her. She like was, awful and horrendous and killed a bunch of Catholics.
I had heard that as a kid.
Yeah, possibly like Mary the First. Another one people suggest was Elizabeth Bathory.
Oh, that's a good one.
She's great, and I think we should talk about her in a future episode.
Oh, I do too. She's creepy as hell.
So she's known as the Queen of Blood because she would bathe in the blood of young girls.
Not RuPaul?
Not RuPaul. But her name isn't Mary, and there's no Mary middle name or last name association, so that one seems like a little bit far-fetched besides just the blood collection, but there's a ton of blood in history, so I think that one's a little bit stupid. And the last one people keep mentioning is Mary Worth, and she was a witch in the Salem witch trial era.
Okay, that makes sense.
And there's like this whole legend account that she used to live in the woods, and then in living in the woods, she would like, make tinctures for people, do like the normal, what people deemed witchy, right? Kind of be in the woods by yourself, do herbals and all that stuff.
It kills me because now she'd probably just be on YouTube as a homesteader. But
she'd be a wonderful cottagecore lovely lady, and
she'd be on YouTube being like, this is how you can beans.
She would. But in Salem in the 17th century, people were like,
that's witchcraft.
Mary, what you doing? And there was this whole part of it that she would have a candle in the woods and lure kids out there and bloody mess and whatever. I don't really think it's any of them, truthfully, and doing the research. I think those are just Mary names that people have thrown at them. Those are Mary names.
Just a Mary name.
The Virgin Mary never appeared.
The Virgin Mary. That's probably the true Bloody Mary.
That's the true one.
Yeah.
The other one that came up, which I thought was interesting, was there's a young girl named Mary that she was dying. And the way that people used to see if you were dead or not was they would put a mirror up to your nose. And if the condensation appeared on the mirror, you're alive because you're breathing.
Smart people.
Smart. Look at that.
Yeah.
But if nothing shows up, you're dead. Yeah. And they would bury you.
They could just put a finger under there and feel for breathing.
Well, I think the mirror then is like showing something visual. So that's fair. Okay. But the mirror was then there showing that, right? And for poor little Mary, nothing appeared. So they buried her. And she was put in the ground. And then her parents then a couple days later was like a little uncertain. They dug her up and noticed that there were claw marks in the coffin.
She didn't get a little bell?
She did get a little bell, actually.
She did?
And listener... No, so what happened was like they had there was like a neighbor looking out for the grave, right? And then the parents were looking out for the grave because they were a little bit uneasy about her death.
Could you imagine just being like, oh, do you think we should go check the grave, see if she's still alive?
Oh, but they were like, oh, but we want to go to the restaurant tonight. Like
they went out to eat?
This was like in like the 18th century, I think the story was.
They
went out. They didn't go to the local TGI Fridays.
Worst parents ever.
They did. They went out and the neighbor was not like paying attention. And it was, I think, like 2 days after she was buried. The bell was put into the coffin, right? And that there's a little hole that then, if someone was buried alive, you could then ring the bell. And then in ringing the bell, it alerts, the whole grave site and the locals, hey, this person ain't dead, dig them up.
Yeah, because they're going to die now.
She's ringing the bell. Nobody's coming. And that's when she then dies in the coffin. And she was scratching at the coffin top. Yeah. Then you're scratching wood, your fingers are going to get really bloody, right?
Yeah.
And screaming and like face contorted, dead.
Ugh.
So
like the Ring.
Think of it like a little ring girl in the coffin.
Turn the chair around like at the end of the Ring. And there she is, Mary.
That is a legend that there's not much historical truth to it, but I think the connection between Bloody Mary and the mirror kind of
that makes sense, and it
is interesting.
That's interesting, especially because then like I could see how the urban legend would be born in a way.
Yeah, and that
especially at that time, I feel like one of the popular urban legends will probably be being buried alive,
which is we will talk about actually in our next episode about being buried alive. But a terrifying thing. Yeah. So poor little Mary, and then they said that she would haunt people who called out her name or that in a mirror. So that then developed into what we now know of the urban legend of Bloody Mary, which is that it's a ghost, a phantom, or a spirit, and that usually it can be conjured to reveal your future, kill you, scratch your eyes out, or bring you to hell. There's a lot of variations.
No. That's a
lot of the options there for little Mary.
It was like one good one.
So the one good one is actually kind of like an early 20th century thing. That women would walk up to a mirror and they would do it's kind of like a divination ritual. Okay. So a young woman who is looking to get married, looking for a nice suitor.
Married?
Oh, look at you. Yeah. Look at you.
Bloody Mary?
Bloody married.
I solved the case.
You did it.
I am Nancy Drew.
They would walk up a flight of stairs backwards, holding a candle. So I would die.
Yeah. A lot of brides lit on fire. Like right before their wedding.
So you're walking upstairs backwards, holding a candle, a lit candle, by the way, and a hand.
Imagine if it wasn't. How stupid you look.
Just like.
Just walk. Walking up the stairs with a candle that's not lit. Just a
pile of
backwards. Wax. Could you imagine seeing that? I would think that person's crazy. Sorry. Continue.
But this was like a thing. A lot of people did this ritual. So like you're walking a candle backwards, candle's lit. There's a hand mirror in your other hand. So let's just paint the picture of you're walking upstairs backwards in a long dress, carrying two different things. For me, immediate death.
Yeah, I would die.
I am not a graceful person. I can't walk down a sidewalk without falling down.
Well, how long is there like a prerequisite for the length of the staircase? Like, could you just do like 3?
I think you're supposed to walk up the flight of stairs, and the house is supposed to be also dark. So, dark house, lit candle, hand mirror, and in the mirror, you're supposed to see a reflection of your future husband, or you'll see a skull.
Oh, are you going to die an old spinster?
Yeah. Well, that means you will die before before marriage. Ew. If you see the skull, death.
Third option is a cat face. In which case you can become an old cat
and
lady.
Some knitting needles.
Right. But a really big house and lots of money and nobody ever bothers you.
You know what? Not a bad thing.
Yeah, right? But mine would definitely be the cat face.
Meow. Bloody meowy.
Buddy meowy, yeah.
But this was the earlier version, kind of like of this mirror divination thing. And this was all tied to, there's a really, popular form of witchcraft divination with mirrors. Okay, and that's kind of associated then with Bloody Mary.
That makes sense.
So that's the Bloody Mary version of this story, though, is even scarier, though, than you see a little skull in a mirror. Yeah. So it's that she then appears to you, and you mentioned when you were a kid that you, said her name 3 times. Mm-hmm. The Wikipedia entry, for some reason, was saying 13 times.
That's a lot of times.
It's a lot of times.
Kids don't got 13 Bloody Marys in them.
That's just, it's more than the 10 fingers.
I mean, it makes sense. 13 always gets that, occult
13 and 3 though too, with numerology, 3 comes up a lot. Yeah. And 13, I mean, I completely understand.
In pop culture though, I feel like it's more 13.
I agree with that. Yeah. But so it's they're variations of 3 and 13 I've read quite a lot. Yeah. So you'd say the name in front of a dimly lit room or candlelit room. So you're going back to kind of that walking backwards up a staircase kind of thing. Gotcha. You say the name and then Bloody Mary will appear. They said she looks sometimes like a corpse, a witch, or a ghost. All not the most lovely things to appear. Yeah. And what she does is terrifying. Sometimes she's also covered in blood. So that's a nice little...
So Carrie appears.
Yeah, Carrie appears.
She just went to prom. That's all.
I just want to go to prom.
She didn't. Oh my God. Oh.
So Mary. She will scream at you. That's one option, which, terrifying, but I'll take it.
Worst, yeah. Compared to some of the other ones.
Curses you. So.
In what way?
Not says, fuck you. She'll No.
Not like, you bitch.
You bitch.
I was sleeping.
Yeah, she'll put a curse on you, probably, ruin your life kind of thing like that.
Yeah, but do they know what the curse is?
No one mentions the actual curse.
Doesn't feel real then.
Strangles you.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I've seen popular culture where a hands will come out of the mirror and kind of grab your neck and stuff like that.
That sucks.
That sucks. Steals your soul. Another option.
How do you steal a soul?
I'm not well versed.
Oh,
Ursula. Is Ursula Bloody Mary?
She just steals her voice, but it could be the same thing.
It's probably, you got it. Yeah.
You nailed it.
Nailed it.
Again.
Drinks your blood. That's another option.
So she's a vampire.
Vampire in there. Or scratches your eyes out. Oh so these are all the options that Bloody Mary has. Which is, she's keeping it new. She's keeping it interesting. Keeping it funky.
I'd be interested to know where a lot of those variations come from. Because I just remember that she kills you. I don't remember if there was a specific way. A
way in which she kills you? You were just you dead?
I just feel like it's she shows up and she murders you. You see her in the mirror and then it's she's going to kill you. That's all I really remember. Yeah, dead.
I kind of remembered obviously blood being a big part of it. The Bloody Mary, either the mirror was bloody or I remember eyes. I was terrified of something happening to eyes, eyes being scratched out or something like that. That's so I don't know why I kind of think about that. But the Bloody Mary story, people are saying could have been tied to the kind of folklore oral version of it from the 1970s. People are saying that that's when that story kind of started, which is interesting. Then in 2014, a scholar, Giovanni Caputo, wrote an article called Visual Perception During Mirror Gazing at One's Own Fate in Patients with Depression. Very long title, but that's what an academic journal is going to do to you.
And immediately you zone out.
Oh, yeah. But they're saying that staring into a mirror in low light does result in seeing apparitions and distorted faces.
Really?
So they're interesting. And especially people with depression, they're saying that when you're focusing so hard at a mirror, and remember a low lit one, that you're going to see something, and the mind will automatically put a face there.
That's interesting.
And that's what you're seeing. So that they're saying the Bloody Mary legend is not that there's this specter or ghost. It's that your mind is kind of playing a trick on you.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's such a sciencey way to see something paranormal. You know?
It is. But I thought it was, a nice way to kind of explain seeing things in mirrors. And I feel like a lot of horror movies plan the thing of like you see something in the mirror, but it's maybe not really there.
Yeah.
But it could be that your mind is trying to create something logical and a face is logical for you.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
I don't know. But that's what Giovanni said.
Yeah. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thanks, Giovanni. And the last little bit of Bloody Mary trivia I have for you is that there is an associated story from Japan in the 1950s.
Is it the Ring Girl?
It's not the Ring Girl.
Is it the Grudge Girl?
It's not the Grudge Girl.
I can't remember where both of those are from, so forgive me if that was totally
It's
off.
totally fine. This legend is called Hanako-san. So she is a spirit of a young girl who haunts school toilets.
So Moaning Myrtle.
JK took totally ripped off the Hanako-san for Moaning Myrtle. So
Okay.
Wikipedia said these stories are connected. I think the only really thing it is that there's a creepy girl associated with kind of being in the bathroom. Like that's where
Creepy girl in the bathroom.
Creepy girl in the bathroom. Like you go to the mirror for Bloody Mary, but Hanako-san's actually a stall.
Oh, she has to be a stall.
So it's associated with either a Yukai or a Yuri ghost. And we know Yuri from playing Phasmophobia.
Oh, Phasmophobia.
So you have to go to a very specific spot to find this ghost. A girl's toilet, 3rd floor, you knock 3 times on the 3rd stall. You ask if she's there. So you're like, hey.
What if somebody responds? Like, wouldn't you just leave?
If you were, if you're like, hi, I'm using the toilet, I don't think it's the ghosts.
No, but I mean, like, even if like you knock and somebody's like, hi.
Well, you're asking like are you here, like, Hanako-san? Like, you're asking for the specific ghost. So, like, think of, like, if you're asking for Bloody Mary and then someone's like, yes, it's
No,
me.
I know. I just mean, like, but, like, if you did that and somebody responded.
Well, how are they going to respond? Being like, yeah, I'm shitting?
No. I mean, granted, like, you went looking for this.
Yeah.
But, like, wouldn't you just, like, get the fuck out?
Well, yeah. But the thing is, I don't think you have time with this ghost.
Why?
So
Why would anybody do this then?
Well, it's the same thing. Why do you do Bloody Mary? If the legends go that you're going to then, like, get your eyes scratched out or your soul taken. But with this ghost, it will reply, yes, I am here. Or something of that nature.
Really? Will it?
Yeah.
So when I asked, never mind. Just want to point that out there.
And so sometimes it says that. Yeah. But then sometimes people instead will witness appearances of a bloody or ghostly hand.
Like over the top?
Yeah. And then
run. That's
it will pull the individual into the toilet. Not a fun way to die.
We should put that in worse ways to die. Getting pulled head first into a toilet.
But that toilet drags you to hell. It's a hellish toilet.
The plumbing goes to hell?
Plumbing goes right to hell.
That would be a hilarious name for like a really funny horror movie.
Or just a plumbing company.
The Plumbing to Hell.
The Plumbers to Hell.
Plumbers to Hell. Sounds like a union.
Or my favorite is that, so instead of being dragged to the toilet to hell, sometimes you could be eaten by a 3-headed snake. Or lizard.
Why a 3-headed one?
I don't know, but that's what can sometimes happen. But you're also going back to the whole thing of 3s.
That's true too. Yeah.
But
odd number.
That, in a nutshell, is Bloody Mary's story.
Is it?
I mean, more? I'm sure there's more out there.
Oh,
but I didn't want to get too much into the pop culture.
That's fair. I mean, I love the pop culture, whatever.
You having a good time there?
Sorry, I'm having a stroke. The pop culture-esque urban legends. I like to think of the ones that like more people like the ones that you heard at like sleepovers, that kind of thing.
Those are the ones that I think stayed with me. It's because you hear them at a young age.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's that, and it's just also, it's like the ones that everybody kind of knew, but there was no, like, I don't know. Like, Bloody Mary's a good one. I have, the first one that I have is the Hookman.
Classic.
Which I'm wishing that I had gone back and read my notes before we started recording. I mean, but so, most people know this one, and this one was done in the movie Urban Legends.
Okay.
But, so the Hookman, or if you read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, there's kind of like a bunch of... It's just really fucking creepy. And this scared me as a child, which if I had known what high school was going to be like, I wouldn't have been so worried. But like... So basically, the legend itself is... it involves, like, a young couple going to Lover's Lane. They hear about... At some point, like, either on the radio or before they go, like, some crazy dude with a hook for a hand has, like, escaped the local asylum.
Okay.
Which is
so always, Captain Hook.
Yeah, very Captain Hook-esque. And at some point at Lover's Lane, you know, the guy's trying to shoot a shot, whatever. And, like...
Don't try to stop me, Shmee.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Trying to shoot a shot with Shmee. He at some point the girl gets freaked out because she's heard the whole thing is going like that he's out there and so she keeps thinking that she hears something and then she does start to hear scratching
on the car.
I've heard like on the car. I've heard either that it's like on the passenger door, the top of the car, that kind of thing. Okay. And then then because it was like in the 1950s, I think that this one came out a little bit. Yeah, it was. The story is thought to date from at least the mid-1950s. I mean, anyway, you're talking about Lover's Lane, so it gives you an idea of how old this one is. At some point, she asks the guy to go outside and check. And then there's so many variations on this one that, like, in some of them, he goes out to go to the bathroom. Some of them, he goes out to check. Some of them, he comes back. Some of them, he doesn't.
So, like, sometimes the girl's just completely abandoned in the car.
Sometimes she dies, too.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes she gets abandoned in the car and gets away, or like in the one in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I distinctly remember that she doesn't actually hear scratching. Oh. At some point, there was something about her like hanging him, which is I think the version they used in Urban Legends. Okay. But I think the more like well-known one is the fact that like they're scratching. He gets out to go to the bathroom or to check, comes back, doesn't find anything. Eventually they go home and they get out of the car and they see scratching on the door, scratching on the top, or the hook is in the door.
So he lost his hand?
Yeah, he left them a souvenir. Aww. When I tell you I was so fucking scared of this as a kid, because the one we read in Scary Stories was like, he gets out and then is gone for like a long time. Okay. And she starts to hear like thumping on the roof and she doesn't know what it is and she gets scared because she thinks it's the Hookman or whatever, so she puts the car in drive and tries to drive away or something like that, or like she gets out and he's like hanging and like what she heard was his feet like tapping on the top.
Oh my.
Yeah, so it's like that. It's terrifying.
Well, it goes back to kind of that fear of like urban legends are often associated with like they play with our social fears and insecurities, so it's like about things that we know or do, like we go traveling in cars. So that fear of like, okay, if I'm parked at night, is something gonna get on top of my car?
Well, I mean, I think, and especially when you talk about like especially depending on when it is that like you're looking at this, like as you start to get towards the 70s and 80s, and you do have like a lot of Lovers Lanes,
like makeout areas.
Well, yeah, but like there were like a lot of murders that
happen. Like serial killers would often like target those areas.
Yeah, and like not only that, it's like you're with like not that you're necessarily with a stranger, but it might be somebody that you don't know terribly well per se, and like more of like a more intimate way. Gotcha. Like that kind of thing. But this actually, so fun fact, the first known publication of the story occurred on November 8th, 1960. Okay. When a reader letter telling the story was reprinted in Dear Abby.
Really?
Yes.
A Dear Abby?
Yeah, and I have the actual one, which again, thank you, Wikipedia. It is, Dear Abby, if you are interested in teenagers, you will print this story. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it doesn't matter because it served its purpose for me. A fellow and his date pulled into their favorite Lover's Lane to listen to the radio and do a little necking, which tells you how old this is. A little necking. That's gross. The music was interrupted by an announcer who said there was an escaped convict in the area who had served time for rape and robbery. He was described as having a hook instead of a right hand. The couple became frightened and drove away. When the boy took his girl home, he went around to open the car door for her. Then he saw a hook on the door handle. I will never park to make out as long as I live. I hope this does the same for other kids, Jeanette. So, I mean,
Look at you, Jeanette, helping out people.
I think Jeanette was just, you know, an older person with a lot of free time. Dare I say, what we would call a Karen today.
Who didn't like the kids necking.
Yeah, and it's probably was just more as a means to scare kids away from Lover's Lane.
Sure. It's like telling kids that there are razors and candy for Halloween.
Exactly, yeah. Which, I mean, I feel like there was an actual, like, one-time case that something similar happened to that, like, in that...
There was, like, a one-time thing where, like...
Texas, right?
Yeah, but, like, a father did it to, like, his kids.
His own kid.
Yeah, it wasn't, like, this widespread thing that
but they
the urban legend talks about.
Yeah, but the Hook Man scares the bejesus out of me, and I think they should make a movie about him. But, I remember...
Why a hook?
I think it's just creepy that somebody has a hook for a hand.
I mean, Buster Bluth from Arrested Development.
And he's creepy.
Spoilers, he did end up murdering Lucille, too, at the end.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I love that show so much.
I didn't realize
when he holds up his hook and he's like, I'm a monster!
That's when that happens?
No, that was, I think, like, season 2, after the seal takes his hand.
Oh, yeah. I forgot the seal takes his hand.
My favorite, though, is when he is trying to win his hand back because he lost it in the claw machine. Mm-hmm. And then the hand for the claw machine goes down and he wins, like, a seal and a gorilla. And he tells his mother that they're prizes from Army. So he's like, the gorilla is from marksmanship and the seal is for sand racing.
That show was so stupid.
I love it so much. But yeah, he had a hook.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really all I have for that one. It's just, good old...
So, like, a good, you know, human, though. Like, not supernatural.
Yeah,
urban legend.
I didn't want to go supernatural with mine. Mm-hmm. I liked because I remember being, like, when I was a kid, like, being very scared of, well, actually, it's funny, I was something I was going to talk about later, but I guess we could talk about now, is I wrote down... Oh, but this is for... Oh, never mind. That's for the next episode. I lied.
Liar. Well, so, like...
Just kidding. But...
Urban legends, I feel like, kind of originate in our base fears and insecurities. Which is, like, kidnapping, murder, stalking,
and
spirits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean... No, I agree. I didn't want to go that direction
but for me, like, I'm terrified of, like, supernatural, otherworldly things. Yeah. Not to say that I'm not scared of serial killers and murderers and all that jazz.
But there's a realism to them that, like, there's like a
tangible
mind, like in my mind I can avoid a serial killer by following a very specific set of
you killed them first?
No, I was gonna say like more like don't hitchhike on the highway.
So like,
you know,
follow kind of
don't be a sorority girl in the 70s.
Got it. Don't be the final girl. Or be the final girl.
Well, yeah, no, be the final girl. Don't be the poor blonde girl on the highway in the 70s.
Don't go to Lover's Lane.
Don't go to Lover's Lane. Don't
don't drive late at night by yourself in an abandoned weird country road.
Yeah, sure. Don't stop for directions at a gas station.
Ever.
Never do that. Use your GPS now. Ironically, now that I was thinking about it, we actually had a little bit of an urban legend as kids that, like, we kind of created in our own backyard, literally.
You mean you and your siblings?
Yeah, we lived up against... We had this really big backyard. I'll never forget it. At my mom's house before she moved. And it went really far back, and then there was, like, woods. Okay. So it was, like, really cool. And we would go in the woods all the time. And we were young, and it was, like, kind of swampy. Nice. And I forget who, if somebody... Oh, this is going to be... Oh, for God's sake. This tells you how old I am, because I can't remember. I can't remember if it was the neighbors told us about it, or if... maybe, like, one of my step-siblings made it up, or even my older sister. I can't remember. But we had this, like, the Candyman. We had the Candyman. Who lived in, like, the swamp back there. And if you asked Joe right now, he would tell you that he saw him once.
Really?
Yeah. So, like...
Like, in the thicket of woods?
Yeah, like, and it would be, like, you'd be by yourself, and we would avoid this one section... because it was like swamp, but then the other way was just kind of like woods. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't go to the swamp section because that's where Candyman was.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I forgot.
Did you have a name for him? Was it the Candyman? Oh, it was the Candyman.
Yeah, because I mean at that time, like when we in the 90s, people did kind of tell you about the whole like if some guy in a white van offers you candy, you run away. Okay,
so it's like you took like an actual warning.
Yeah, and turned it into
your own little urban legend in the backwoods.
He became the Candyman who lives in the swamp.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I forgot we did that. That was a fun one.
I feel like though, like I mean, I don't know if this is normal, but I felt like I would as well, like you think about something that's scary. Like for me, like I hate basements. And
okay.
I don't like I was always terrified of the basement at my mom's house. And I was always freaked out about it. I'd always think there was somebody by the back heater. And for me, like, I would always think that. It's not like an urban legend, but I would always, like, place that I think somebody's right there.
I think we should do an entire episode on childhood fears.
Oh, I still have nightmares from, also, the attic of that house. So, like, it was one of those attics that,
you didn't want to go all the way up and you didn't want to go all the way down.
I was, like, comfortable in the
Very
middle. But, like, the attic was above my and my brother's room. Like, you had to pull down the string, and then the ladder would come down, and then you go up. But, like, you could... The larger part of the attic was right above our room. So, like, I would feel like I'd hear things and I get freaked out. My brother swears there was this other weird story of our house. It was like a vase falling down, and he said there was no rational explanation for it, and he thinks that there was a ghost in the house or something like that.
Of course.
But I still have weird nightmares thinking about the attic in that house. Like,
really?
I don't think about that house at all, but I have sometimes, like, horrible nightmares. I wake up, like, in a sweat thinking about that attic. And I don't know if it's, like, because my body made me think of, like, a legend of that attic when I was a kid. But it still comes up today.
That's so interesting.
At 31 years old.
I mean, a lot of the things I was scared of as a kid, like, sometimes will come back and, like, make...
They creep up.
Yeah. We have to do a whole episode on this.
Oh, yeah. Childhood things. But these urban legends, they kind of... They feed upon these fears.
Yeah, sometimes childhood fears become childhood urban legends.
Yeah.
Do you want to do another one or should I?
Sure. So another thing that I'm fascinated by is kind of like weird art and haunted art.
So very Ghostbusters too.
Yeah. But like
Vigo.
Exactly the story I'm gonna tell.
Is it really?
No.
I would love that.
There was a Stephen King, the first book I actually read of his, in 2008 called Duma Key, which is talking a lot about like how an artist will paint something and then there's something in that painting. And I don't like it's stuck with me.
Very The Witches, how they used to kill their kids and put them in the painting.
Yes, which is a terrifying movie.
Yeah, especially because then when she comes by and she like taps on it and the girl's gone, I was like, where the fuck she go?
Where'd she go?
That is terrifying.
I was like, that's not the painting I bought originally.
Poor girl. Or they'd be like, if you would look at the painting, she'd be in different places, and I was like, nobody would notice this?
No.
Sorry.
No,
totally
but completely,
random.
but
yeah.
there is something about that, and like the Supernatural, which I used to love that show before the brothers would be like, I died, I resurrected you. I died, I resurrected you.
Oh.
But that happens a lot in the later seasons.
I watched I want to say a season and a half of that show.
The first 4 seasons were very urban legend tied and some early Christian mythology, which I really liked, but then it got really weird.
That's fair.
I'll still watch it, but they ran out of ideas. But there was one episode as well of a haunted painting, and haunted paintings are deeply tied into urban legends, which I think is fascinating. And there's one story that's more recent. It's called The Hands Resist Him, and that's the name of a painting. So there was an artist who made this painting in the late 20th century, and it's this painting of a boy who's probably about 6 or 7 years old. It's meant to be looking like him as a kid, next to a doll, and the doll is about just under his height, so it's a very life-size doll, and they're in front of this screen door, and in this screen door there are these handprints. Okay. So a very disturbing looking painting. Okay. So the painting was sold, nothing of it, right?
Somebody bought that?
Somebody bought this painting, and it's called The Hands Resist Him, and then it went on eBay, I think a decade or so later. And when it went on eBay, they prefaced this painting is fucked up and haunted.
Okay, so this is recent.
It's recent, yeah. It's
Did you say that?
I said it was he was a late 20th century painter.
Oh, that's why I heard that and just didn't put two and two together.
It's fine.
Sorry.
But it went on eBay.
I'm dumb. Remember this, people. Sometimes you really have to spell it out for me.
So it went on eBay and it had this long description saying it's haunted, the people in the painting move, stuff is happening, I'm warning that I will not accept this painting as a return. I do not have any responsibilities for if you have this painting, what happens to you.
Why didn't you just throw it away?
I don't know, there's something about people having like a fear of like if you throw away something too, it could come back to you.
That's
it's like
such
this,
a horror movie thing. It's like, I need to get rid of this thing. I should try and sell it.
I know, but like there's so many like weird haunted things, like
Yeah.
you know, haunted with, you know, parentheses around them, about like on eBay, like haunted dolls. A coworker of mine once bought a haunted milk crate on eBay.
Why?
'Cause
On eBay?
he was very into collecting haunted things that were not the typical haunted thing.
Oh, I'm about to make $600 million fucking dollars.
So
I'm gonna put pencils and pictures.
oh,
and all
but
kinds
they
of
would
shit on
write
eBay.
stories. So like they would say like the haunted milk crate, like you could hear at night the milk bottle shaking, but there are no bottles in it.
Okay. That's
So like
kinda
he had
funny.
this like weird collection of
Yeah.
things, and he was going to like write this like book about like haunted things that don't look haunted, kind of.
Fair.
Which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
But this painting looked fucking haunted. It has this like young boy
Yeah.
with this girl doll, and if you look it up, it should totally look up. It's very scary looking. So people then saw this painting on eBay and then started like sharing it with other people and became really popular. So people were making bids on it. It was at like $199 and it went up to $1,000
Wow.
for this haunted painting. And then the story goes that the person who then bought it, you know, weird, died a short time after and stuff like that. So, and then somebody also requested the artist to make a prequel and a sequel to the painting, and they did that as well.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the paintings or all of them are in the Haunted Museum in Nevada, in Las Vegas.
This feels like an elaborate way to sell paintings.
Just make up these haunted stories.
Yeah, because like imagine like if you painted something and then it supposedly was like haunted and potentially even killed somebody, would you paint a prequel and a sequel?
Oh yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
I would feel so responsible.
Well, that's kind of like in Duma Key, there's like this whole thing about that, which I'm fascinated by taking a blank canvas,
Yeah.
transforming it into something, and then that becomes this haunted object. Like,
Okay.
what instills
The haunt?
the haunt? Like, what brings it? And I think that's what's like kind of fascinates me the most with these urban legends is that you're turning something that was not into something that is for haunted, and like how does that happen? Because this is
true.
not like just like a spooky thing appears or it's a murderous person. It's this object
Yeah.
that is imbued with this
With the ghost.
a ghost or like like and the images change. Like someone said that the doll girl ended up holding a gun pointing at the boy in the painting and told him to like get the fuck out of the painting. And I was like,
Oh my
that's
God.
kind of almost hilarious though. It's
That's
like,
a little funny to me, yeah.
but it was interesting. So I would love to hear more urban legends about haunted paintings or drawings. I have I used to be friends at this antique store in South Jersey, and they gave me a charcoal painting of a girl with like a hat, and my mom refuses to look at it. She's like
Really?
so freaked out by it.
Why?
It's kind of scary looking, and it kind of, because like they felt that way when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, that's like that's a little spooky looking.
Just a little, yeah.
And like the dress has these weird like symbols on it, and I'm like, is it
Well, that's why.
is it a symbol? Is it
Yeah.
just like a design? But it looks like it could be like the cover of like a haunted movie or book. Yeah, I keep it in the guest room.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
For all your guests to sleep under.
Yeah,
I had never heard of this urban legend.
yeah. So look up "The Hands Resist Him,"
Yeah. I will
and
not.
now we can go on eBay and look up haunted items.
I will not be looking at haunted items on eBay. I have enough scary shit in my life. I don't need to buy it.
Well, what's another one you kind of stuck with you?
I wanted to grab one that everybody's heard, so forgive me. But I did want to do the babysitter and you're not alone in the house. The call is
That
coming from
one's
inside the house.
terrifying.
Yeah, so I mean, there are, God, probably so many different variations on this. And then I did think, well, hold on, let's go over what it is first. What is that? Oh my God, hold on one second. Never mind, it's just a fuzz. I thought there was the world's largest spider coming at me right now. I was about to have a very big panic attack. So this one, we'll just go over it in case you really don't know what it is, in which case, my God, where have you been living under a rock? But it's basically this young girl is babysitting these two kids, and at some point she gets a call from an unknown person who says, have you checked on the children? And so then she gets a little bit freaked out, but then I feel like she usually goes and checks on the kids, and they're fine. And then she gets a call again, like, did you check on the children? She starts to get freaked out, and eventually at some point, she calls the police because I was just, like, breathing on the other end or, like, whatever.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then, the way it goes is they always call her back, and they're like, listen, you need to get out of the house. And then they tell her later that the calls were coming from inside the house, from upstairs.
So the police called and told her to get out of the house?
Yeah, usually, it's almost always that the police either call her and, like, they're like, the calls are coming from inside the house, you need to get out of the house, like freaked out.
Okay.
Because they finally traced it or whatever. Or they, like, tell her calmly, like, oh, you should get out of the house, we'll be there in a second, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they tell her, like, once she's outside that, the kids are dead and the calls were coming from inside the house.
Oh, God.
I believe in some of the... So, before we get... Well, let's do... Sorry, let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything.
I remember hearing this legend when I was a kid. Like,
yeah.
My babysitter told me the story.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, my older siblings told me about this one. But we didn't really... I mean, they were usually my babysitters, so...
I'm going to guess I was younger than 7. And I remember being terrified. And I used to think about, like, every time the phone would ring when I was being babysat. And I was like, oh my God, it's this.
I feel like... Well, see, for me, it was like, I was never the babysitter because I'm a dude. And for some reason, that was just never something that guys did. We were not usually babysitters. I feel like it was more popular among, like, teenage girls because you're more often the ones who
I was always scared of babysitting late at night, like, alone after the kids went to bed, because I'm just like...
Did you get any weird phone calls?
I, like, just thinking like that, or, like, because we didn't have cell phones, like...
Yeah, it was landlines.
Like, yeah, it was landlines, so it was always freaky.
So, I can't decide if I want to do other versions first or what people think kind of spawned the urban legend.
Oh, tell me what spawned it.
Okay, fine. So, if you insist.
Thank you.
So, there was a murder in the 1950s. To be exact, I believe it was Saturday, March 18th, 1950. I am right. Look at me go.
Look at you go, knowing dates.
Wrote it down. Because I otherwise would not know. But it happened to Janet Christman in... where was she from? I didn't write it down. It was one of the southern states. Was it? Oh, I think I have it here. Sorry, 1 second. Columbia, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was 13.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a sad story. So, she was babysitting this kid, Greg, for Anne and Ed Romack, who had just moved to, like, the rural outskirts of Columbia. And, so they leave her at, like, some point, and Anne tells her to just leave the radio on for Greg. He's, like, 3. And he'll sleep. That's what he likes to listen to. But Ed shows her how to, like, use the shotgun. Why? Well, in case something happens. In case something weird happens. Because it is 1950. Okay. And they live in, like, the rural part of the state. So, but then they go to play cards with their friends. At 10:35 p.m., Boone County Sheriff's Department receives a frantic phone call. Ray McGowan picks up and was met with the screaming of a panicked woman who said, "Come quick," but then the phone gets, like, cut. Yeah. But he couldn't do anything. He had to wait for another call because it was too short to trace and she didn't give any information. So finally, Anne calls home sometime after that and doesn't get an answer. Oh no. But doesn't think anything of it. She thinks that Janet just fell asleep. Because it was, like, late. Sure, yeah. Yeah, so they leave at, like, 1:15, get home around 1:35 to the front... Oh, that was the other thing. He told her if somebody comes knocking to turn the front porch light on and... or something like that. Okay, so make it look like, someone's home. Yeah, just to see who it was kind of thing before answering the door. Like, sure. Because she was 13 and he wanted to give her, like, the best part. So when they get home... It had been there was, like, inclement weather, so it was, like, raining and there was, like, sleet or something. Okay. They get home, the driveway's, like, all muddy and that kind of fun stuff, and the front porch light is on, the blinds are up, and so she was looking from the blinds to see who was at the front door. Yeah. And when they went to the front door, it was unlocked. Oh. Yeah. And then when they went inside, they found her dead.
Oh my God.
Obviously. Otherwise, this has no point. Poor Janet. So they found her murdered on the living room floor. She had been raped and murdered, which was really sad. But Greg was fine. Greg makes it through.
Okay.
She had been strangled with, I want to say phone cord, and they found her dead near the phone, and it was like off the receiver.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but what makes this even more interesting, so forgive me, I had to rush over here, so I didn't get a chance to, read the whole thing. I believe they didn't solve it because where the house was, there was like another police officer who lived like 100 some odd yards away or something weird like that. And he was from a different jurisdiction, but then tried to take over the thing, and it became this whole debacle. They did find that there was like I think it was like a broken window that had been broken with a garden hoe.
Oh.
Yeah, and but they think that she knew her attacker and let him in because the shotgun was like untouched.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting is a very similar murder had happened years before that with Mary Lou Jenkins. A very similar thing, like front porch light on and like that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, like, what do you do though? Like, as the babysitter, like, it sounds like they did what they should be doing. It's just terrifying.
Yeah, it just happened to be, and that's why a lot of people think that spawned the urban legend, because if you're a babysitter and like something like that kind of scary happens.
But then like the call coming from inside the house, which
would relate to the fact that like she knew her attacker.
Yeah, and also that like they're toying with you too, because it's like they're already in the house and they're calling you. Yeah, it's terrifying.
That was always the scariest thing to me. That twist, I think, was always like the freakiest fucking thing. Yeah. There are other versions, though. Do you want to know the other versions?
I do.
Okay, there's a lot of them. Forgive me, Wikipedia does not.
Give me a couple.
I didn't read them all.
I want to know a couple, and then I want to talk about the local one.
The local one?
Not the local that one, but the local Watcher story.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, most of them, it's just like, most of the variations are like, sometimes the babysitter dies, sometimes the babysitter manages to rescue the children and the prowler gets arrested. While being taken away by the police, the prowler whispers or says out loud, "See you soon," to the babysitter. In some versions, when the prowler calls the babysitter, he just makes scary noises like giggling or heavy breathing. Ew. And in this version, when the operator says that the calls have been coming from the same house, the phone goes quiet. And when the operator asks if the babysitter is still there, they just hear the same scary noises that she was hearing. Ooh. Meaning the babysitter has already been killed.
Oh my God.
That's the creepiest one to me too.
That like sent goose pimples down my spine.
The one from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books is the children are with the babysitter while watching television. The prowler starts phoning them, saying that he'll be with them in a decreasing amount of time. Then after they get the news that the calls are coming from inside the house, they hear a door upstairs opening and then the sound of footsteps heading towards the room where they are. Which is freaky as all hell because I can like hear it in my head.
Yeah, and also that like you can just imagine them like walking upstairs and then down. It's like, what do you do? It's like you come out the front door.
I would hear like in my mind, it's always like a more like quickened pace. Oh, okay. Which I think is
not
terrifying.
like a Michael Myers like.
Oh no, not like just like a little creak in the floor that you know somebody's moving. Like you hear like the dun 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 dun. It's like they're coming down the stairs.
Gotcha.
Kind of yeah. In one version, the police informed one of the children that they found the prowler under the kid's bed holding a weapon, which I think is really creepy for like kids. Yeah. This is a creepy one. Years later, the babysitter is now an adult and has a family of her own. One evening, she and her husband go to have dinner out while a babysitter looks after the children. The evening is going well until a waiter approaches their table and says that there's a phone call for her. I think you know where this is going. Mm-hmm. She then answers the phone and hears, "Did you check on the children?" Which is terrifying. There's also...
Do you know the clown doll one?
That was the one I was saving for last.
That's the one that scared. I don't know if it's completely accurate, but it's that like when...
I've never heard this one.
Really?
Yeah, but apparently, so for all of you, in more modern versions, rather than being tormented by menacing phone calls, the babysitter is unnerved by what she assumes to be a hideous life-size statue of a clown in the corner of the room. Which... Fuck any fucking parents who leave that in the living room or like the bedroom or whatever. When the mother or father of the children she is caring for calls home to check in, the babysitter asks if she can cover the clown statue with a blanket. The parent informs the babysitter they do not own a clown statue, which just answers the question I said.
Yeah.
The statue, in quotes, was really a murderer who attacks and kills the girl before she can escape. That is fucking terrifying.
That is the one that's, like, stuck with me after the original. Yeah. Being, like, there's this doll-like thing or a clown in the corner that's actually a person.
That would make an epic movie.
It would.
I'm not gonna lie. That's terrifying.
Also, there's, like, a whole fear of clowns and everything. There's that urban legends as well of, like... I remember in 2016, there was that thing about the clowns all around, that murderous clowns.
Yeah, they kept popping up in, like, different... It was mostly in the South.
It was actually in England too. There were just these random people dressed as more horrifying looking clowns, and they just kind of like stand in places just for people out.
I feel like it started in the South and then like kind of became like a viral thing.
It was huge, and like, but it was going back to these older fears of like clowns and.
Well, clowns are universally creepy.
They are. Well, it's also like something that's supposed to be friendly and happy, but it's actually malicious. Which is terrifying.
Well, because they are weirdly... I feel like they scare all kids, because they're way too freaking
we can have a whole episode on clowns, and I think we should, because I had many times being terrified. Agree. But I think we should end with The Watcher. Wait, you have one more of the...
I had one more besides The Watcher.
Okay, go for it.
How far in are we, though?
We are about an hour in.
Oh, we have time. Sorry, This is a long one, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. So the other one, and I remember this distinctly hearing this as a kid. I forget who told me this. But it's funny because my brother-in-law, David, when I mentioned to him that we were doing this episode, he brought this up, and I was so glad he did because I had forgotten about it. Have you ever heard the story of the licked hand?
The licked hand?
Yes, the licked hand.
No.
Okay. This one I don't need the prompt. So what I remember is basically there's a young girl who is home alone, and she has a dog. And I feel like usually it's a golden retriever, but it can be any breed. Doesn't really matter.
A big dog.
I mean, it would probably have to be a big dog.
Not a chihuahua.
Yeah, probably not a chihuahua.
Okay.
It definitely actually can't be a chihuahua.
Okay.
And you'll find out why. But she's afraid to go to bed because she's like, I feel like she's usually like a teenager, but like a young teenager, like somewhere between the age of like 13.
Preteen.
Yeah, even preteen, like somewhere between like 11, 12 to like 14 or even 15. She's home alone, and she's scared. Maybe I do need the thing. Hold on one second. It is that she's home alone for the very first time. Okay. So listening to the news, she hears a killer is on the loose in her neighborhood, and that's why she's scared. Which, by the way, why the fuck is a young girl home alone for the first time with only her dog if a serial killer is loose? But
well done, parents.
Right. That's usually, I feel like that's the ultimate thing of urban legends. It's just like horror movies.
It really is.
But, so basically what she does is when she finally goes to bed, she puts her hand over the edge of the bed.
First mistake.
And, whenever she's feeling a little frightened, the dog licks her hand. That's why she puts her hand over the... Well, I mean, like, her dog licks her hand whenever she puts her hand over the edge of the bed,
so
kind of thing.
For her, it's a comfort thing.
Yeah, it's a comfort thing because she knows the dog is there and she feels protected because she has the dog.
Okay.
So she falls asleep for a little bit. She wakes up. She puts her hand over the bed. Her dog licks her hand. She's fine. The next morning, she wakes up and she doesn't see the dog. Mm-hmm. So she gets up, she goes into the bathroom, and she finds the dog dead, strung up in the shower, like all bloody in a mess. And on the mirror in blood, it's just written, humans can lick hands too.
Ew! That is horrifying and disgusting on so many levels.
Yeah, right? Thank you. Like, it's so freaking scary. And I remember, because I love dogs. So I always hated that one because the dog dies. But that's why it has to be a bigger dog too, because if you put your hand over the chihuahua with like a human-sized dog, just
lick.
That's definitely my chihuahua over there. But yeah, that one scares the bejesus out of me.
That's just...
Yeah.
But like also thinking like what's going through that murderer's mind, be like, I'm just gonna lick that hand.
Well, I mean,
then leave after killing the dog.
But I mean, to be fair, that's such a serial killer thing to do because a lot of them just like to fuck with people.
That's so fucked up.
That is really fucked up. I mean, it's good for her because she lived, but like, imagine how scarred you would be.
Oh, like, No.
Yeah,
That one creeps me out.
That's a quick one, but I love that one because it is creepy as all
I'm
hell.
really hoping that was not based on a true story.
I don't think it was. I don't know. It's it has been found in print as early as February 1982. So it's probably
not super old, but
yeah, not super old, but that I do remember that one especially. And I mean, like, we grew up in the 90s, so it wasn't that much longer after.
And you had big dogs as kids.
I did. We had 2 German Shepherds at one point. I had a Golden Retriever. I have a big dog now, Frolvosaurus Rex, as my dad calls him. Yeah, I love big dogs.
I'm a little dog person.
You are. You have 3 little cherubs.
I do. Monsters.
Let me just look up the Watcher really quick.
So I've heard of the Watcher story before, and I know there was like one night I was having some insomnia, and for some ungodly reason I was like, let's Google the Watcher.
Did you really?
Yeah.
First mistake.
First mistake. Oh, speaking of first mistake, ever since we did the last episode with the aliens, I have many a time when I like wake up in the middle of the night because I drank water much too late to go to the bathroom at like 3 a.m.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I look outside the window. I don't know why.
Candace, we talked
and
about this.
I keep thinking I'm seeing something, and in the middle of the lawn. And I feel like that's the urban legend now that I've created in my head, that there's somebody who likes, or something who stands in the middle of the backyard and just looks at me.
I mean, that is terrifying to me.
I think about it all the time. We're trying to get in the middle of the night, and I'm like, why?
I don't have that problem. I mean, I don't have to look out a window, though.
Well, like, I really don't either. Like, I could keep the curtains closed. I could keep the curtains closed in the bathroom. But for some reason, I just peek while I walk by.
That's such a dumb thing.
It's so dumb.
And it's probably become, like, routine for you now that your brain makes you do it.
Yeah, because it's just like, okay, it's a pattern that you're waking up to pee. Let's see if there's something in the middle of the backyard in the middle of the night.
I mean, you are now the safest house ever. Well, I guess not really, but
no, because there's could be something in the middle of the backyard.
Yeah. I'm just like, no, I'm like, I can't even see into your backyard. How do you see back there?
When the moon is really bright.
Oh, okay, that's
and
fair.
it's really freaky. So you want to scare me now with the Watcher?
With the Watcher. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, because I don't think we've ever actually talked about this, is we live in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And there is a very famous case from like the early 2010s. Yeah. That happened in Westfield, New Jersey, which is not far from us.
It's about, I think, like a 25 minute drive.
I wouldn't even say 25 minutes.
Oh, you drive fast.
No, but even, I mean, maybe it is 25 minutes.
Not that far. And Westfield, New Jersey has a great historical history, being where Charles Addams was born, and he did the Addams family drawings there, too.
Who the hell is Charles?
The guy who created the Addams family.
I mean, I guess that makes it. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no. Westfield is famous for that, and there's actually, I think, a tavern there called like Addams Tavern, which they have like kind of like a spooky thing.
I mean, it's a really cute town. It's a little bougie.
Very older Victorian style buildings.
They filmed some films there. Yeah. There's one of them. It was a Queen Latifah movie. They used the Starbucks there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a nice Starbucks.
Yeah. But like, I mean, it's not that.
It's a cute little downtown area. It's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, it's a cute.
You
place.
have to have a good amount of money to buy a house there.
You do well. Actually, as a realtor, I can tell you there are some options. They're just not necessarily the best ones.
Well, taxes are high though, right?
Yeah, taxes are high. Property taxes are high there.
Well, besides that, I know the Watcher story though is about a very expensive house.
It is. So, I'm going to basically, I feel bad. I'm going to do some reading. Forgive me.
Well, good luck to you.
But so I am going to I found this article from huntakiller.com, and it's written by Maddie Rowley. I hope she doesn't mind that I read it, but she posted it publicly. So
we're citing her right now.
Exactly. I can't, that's not like an issue, right? If I read.
No.
I'm reading an article too. You can find it
We're
online.
quoting it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I'm going to kind of like skim it for a second. Okay, so I feel like this will be whatever. I'm just going to read it. Okay, sorry. If you've ever purchased a new house, or if a friend or a family member has, it's usually a happy occasion. You pack up all your belongings and then start anew in a place you can decorate however you want, a home in which you'll make a lifetime of memories. That's how it went for Derek and Maria Broaddus.
Okay.
Sure, Broaddus. When they purchased a historical home in Westfield, New Jersey, a coveted suburb 16 miles southwest of New York City. There you go. The house, located at whatever, I'm not going to read the address, I just don't feel like that's fair, was built in 1905 and boasted 6 bedrooms, which meant plenty of room left over for the Broaddus family of 5, Derek, Maria, and their 3 children. Even before they moved in, however, their dreams started to turn into a nightmare. They began receiving anonymous letters from someone who called themselves the Watcher. While Derek was prepping the interior of the home before they moved in, he checked the mail to find this anonymous letter. Dearest neighbor at... Oh, I guess I have to say it. Never mind, you're going to learn their address. At 657 Boulevard. Allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming.
Ew.
Right? My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard?
I don't like it when things are in the walls.
Yeah, unless it's studs. I don't want to know anything. But every studs and insulation and wiring. Why are you here? I will find out. I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move.
Oh, no.
You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. Derek, disturbed, called the police and told them about the threatening letter. He then sent an email to the previous homeowners. I'm not going to read their names, even though it's on here, because one line in the Watcher's letter seemed to mention them and the Broaddus' children.
Oh, God.
Oh, I guess I have to. Well, it doesn't. I asked the Woods. This is from the letter. I asked the Woods to bring me young blood, and it looks like they listened. That's
so
creepy.
he's claiming that he spoke to the previous homeowners.
Well, I think what he's saying is that he's sent letters.
He contacted them. Yeah.
And a fun fact, because I am a New Jersey realtor, I can tell you that something like this, despite it being disturbing, because it's I can't remember the exact terminology, even though it's like annoying and like obviously
creepy.
Scary, you don't have to disclose that.
So morally, you probably should, but legally you don't have to.
I mean, yeah, even morally, there's the argument of like, we'll never get out of here if we tell people that somebody's going to send them fucking creepy letters.
That's true.
So you're right. Morally, you probably should, but realistically, you were not required. Like in California, if somebody has died in the house, you have to disclose that.
Really?
But in New Jersey, you don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Like, just because it's unsightly or like not fun, if it doesn't really, like, if it's not like a material defect of the house,
gotcha.
It's not technically something you have to disclose. Yeah. The Woods responded and said that they had received only one letter from someone claiming to be the Watcher right before they moved out. In the 23 years they had lived in the house, they hadn't received another letter like it, so she dismissed it and threw the letter away. After this letter, the Broadduses were pretty freaked out, especially when, according to The Cut, which is a magazine or news article, website, whatever, Derek was giving a tour of the renovations to some neighbors, and the woman suddenly said, "It'll be nice to have some young blood in the neighborhood." A second envelope arrived a few weeks later. It read, in part, "The workers have been busy, and I have been watching you unload carfuls of your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me."
Oh.
Yeah, right? That's fucking creepy as all hell. You certainly say their names often.
Oh, God. So
Yeah.
he's listening.
Yeah, he's really fucking creepy. 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement? I would never let my kids in the basement after that. Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I did not know about this letter.
Yeah, right? Will they sleep in the attic, or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better. All the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher and have been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on and kindly sold it when I asked them to.
What?
Right? I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. And now you are too, Broadus family. Oh, he spelled it Bradis, which is interesting since that's
embarrassing for
right?
him.
Yeah, that's so great, Mr. Watcher.
Mm-mm.
Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I'll be watching. That's fucking freaky.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that. I feel like I should have jokes or something, but I don't.
I think actually, I don't know if you have that written down, but there's been a lot of like updates about that house. Like,
yeah.
Like Netflix has actually like bought the rights.
Yeah, they bought the rights for it. I think they mentioned that in this article. Because I think this article is from January of 2021.
Because I don't think that family ended up moving in. And they sold it at a giant loss.
They did. They talk about that here too. But yeah, they do eventually manage to sell it. Well, here. Does it get creepier than that? At first, the Broaduses thought the mysterious letters might be from someone who had really wanted the house, but had lost it in the bidding war, or maybe even a disgruntled neighbor who wasn't too fond of the house renovations or the thought of having kids next door, which, to be fair, all are probably true. Their immediate next-door neighbors stood out as a real possibility, as they had lived in their house since the 1960s, and they had a view from which they could generally see what was going on in and around the Broaduses' home.
Oh.
Derek set up cameras all over the house and even stayed up late, mapping out the neighborhood, noting when certain families had moved in, while keeping a close eye on the streets to see if any suspicious vehicles were driving by. So this man was, like, on a mission.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, good for Derek.
Derek, good job, man.
The couple decided to sell the home just 6 months after receiving the first letter, but when they couldn't sell it due to rumors spreading around town about the house, they decided to rent it out instead. Which, fair. I don't blame them. Interestingly, when the police finally conducted a DNA analysis on the letters, they found that the DNA traced back to a woman. They looked at the next-door neighbor, one of whom was a woman, but the DNA didn't match up. The next-door neighbors were eventually ruled out.
Oh.
Which is interesting to me. I'm actually not surprised it's a woman by the way it was written. What do you think? Does that shock
I don't
you?
know. I think the way like pop culture and everything has told stories about like people watching or killers, it's often a man. So my first thought went to it's a him.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that woman who said like I've said before like, oh, young blood in the office now, like being like as like, you know,
it
a
is kind of like
term. It's a weird term, but it's still used.
It's not like some super random like off the wall remark.
But I would have not bet on it being a woman.
There is something I will say about like some of the language that makes me feel like it's a woman. I don't know why. It's like
well, I think because they mentioned my father and my grandfather in being the previous watchers, I thought of it being
that makes sense.
Of like this is a male role that is inherited in the family.
But I think it's somebody who's trying to scare them.
Yeah,
so
which
they
then
wanted
you could
them to
use...
think it was a man.
Yeah.
But there's something about this that doesn't feel like man-ish, if that makes sense. There's like a way the wording is. I don't know how to explain it.
Did they ever figure out who it was?
I don't know. We're going to have to find out because I didn't get a chance to read the article before I came over. Because forgive me, I was dealing with a client and they were very needy today, so I didn't get a chance to read it. Sorry, I lost my spot really quick. Okay. Some people in town started to think that maybe the Broaduses had written and sent the letters to themselves, perhaps to get out of the contract they signed to buy the home. But Maria's DNA was tested and it wasn't a match.
Okay.
The Watcher then sent a third letter to the couple that was later renting the house in 2017, which is not that long ago.
No.
The tenant turned the envelope over to Derek. You wonder who the Watcher is? Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me, one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the Watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and you're too scared to tell anyone. Good move. I walked by the news trucks when they took over my neighborhood and mocked me. I watched as you watched from the dark house in an attempt to find me. Telescopes and binoculars are wonderful inventions. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. My soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't, like, this, I mean, it has to be somebody, like, doing something elaborate, but this is fucking creepy.
I don't like it when things are talking about, like, the bones of the house or something in the walls, or that the house is kind of its own personality and entity.
And that's kind of why I didn't think it was a man.
Well, I mean, think about the whole Amityville Horror thing. That was about a house kind of being haunted and itself is a malignant force.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think that, like, that to me was, like, weird, because I feel like men, like, generally, like, if you want to write something about, like, and make it feel like a man, like, the obsession would be, like, the kids or the wife. You know what I mean? The house itself feels weird to me.
It's very strange. It feels like, to me, something that Shirley Jackson would write, like The Haunting of Hill House, thinking, like, the house itself is plagued and that it's then doing the action. Like, that the house, you know, is listening to the watcher, it's defending itself, it's barricading. I don't know, it's very interesting.
It's, first of all, it's certifiable.
It really is.
I wonder, well, here. So, according to CNN, in July of 2019, the Broadduses were finally able to sell the home for, you know, a measly $959,000, which is about $341,000 less than what they originally bought it for. So they took a loss, but that's realistically,
a big loss, though.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's like a normal suburban home.
Yeah.
Loss, but I mean, they made almost $1 million, and I wouldn't think it was.
I'm assuming they'll make enough back with the Netflix deal.
That, and also, if they were smart, they've written a book by now.
Yeah.
The new owners of the home haven't been identified, and they haven't spoke out as to if they've received letters from the Watcher. But as of right now, the Watcher has never been caught or identified. So that answers that.
Okay.
In December of 2019, Netflix won the rights to the Watcher's story, so we can look forward to either a show or a movie at some point covering this case. And then So that's pretty much the whole thing.
It's a very scary story.
I think it's terrifying because, I mean, first of all, I mean, anything that has to relate to, like, home is like your safe place. So anything like where somebody, and like clearly, like, what they're saying in the letters means they really are actually watching whoever's writing the letters.
Because they're giving detail. It's not just like, I see you've purchased a house and are moving in. Yeah. It's listing kids, it's listing, like, the telescope, the binoculars.
I wonder, though, if they've tested the DNA of, like, close family relatives, though, or friends, because it could be an elaborate hoax.
That they've been,
because, like, it's kind of like in the Amityville Horror scheme of things, like, you know, the house is haunted. And then, like, they get famous, they write a book, they make a shit ton of money. Yeah, you know, you could do the same thing with the Watcher.
You totally could. And
again, I will start sending letters to myself because I would like a shit ton of money.
They will test the DNA.
Yeah, I'll just have Froth lick the envelope.
Going back to the liquor story.
Yeah, exactly. The lick hand. I'll just have random people. I'll just be like, can you just lick this? Thank you.
Just lick it. Yeah. They're actually saying now with COVID, you should not be licking envelopes.
Thank you. I've been saying that since it fucking started. I can't remember.
Like, I went to USPS the other day and they said, don't lick. Just give the envelope to us and we'll seal it.
I've always thought that was gross in general anyway, because then, like, when you go to open it and it's like the way it first of all, it looks like all, like, indented, and, like, you know somebody's mouth was on this.
Yeah, no, it's disgusting.
And, like I wouldn't take other things from people, like pens or anything that had been in their mouth. Why do I want an envelope? And especially because that's where you have to put your hand to open it.
I know.
I hate that. Even whether it's COVID or not, don't do that.
I think that needs to stop. And also the blowing out of birthday candles on the cake. Like, because you're spitting all over the cake.
Yeah, like, it's cake, bitches. Like, that shit's like...
Let's preserve the cake. Yeah. Keep it safe.
Especially because it's usually, like, kids' birthdays. Yeah. And, like, kids are not known for
They don't know how to blow things out.
Yeah.
Like, but things that should stop.
Yeah.
But the Watcher story, it's, like, really horrifying. And I have not heard of another story like that. Like, another, like... this is not even an urban legend. This is, like, real...
Well, it really happened. But I think it has, like, an urban legend quality to it. Mm-hmm. Because... I imagine, like, especially, like, in another 20 or 30 years, it'll take on more of an urban legend type of thing to it. But also it's, like... Or it could become the origin story of an urban legend.
It totally could. Yeah. Because
Which is probably what will happen in that Netflix show.
Definitely. Well, I mean, Netflix is going to make it bigger, but there was, like they said, The Watcher even commented that news stories would come and like interview people and like film the house. So this story went all over. So it made Westfield even more popular in the recent 10 years, right? Sure. So then people know of The Watcher, and then there could be copycats, and there could be people telling the story as well. So I think you're right. I think this could be the start of more urban legends, and a podcast 50 years from now will be like, this happened in early 2000s.
And I believe the origin story is
in Westfield, New Jersey.
Right.
So that's the one that one freaks me out.
That one freaks me out just mainly because it's like in our backyard.
That The Watcher is 25 minutes away.
Yeah, that's not, and like we don't know where they live, so they could literally be like right here with us for all we know in our hometown. Just
do a daily commute to Westfield to watch the house.
Realistically, like if it's somebody in the neighborhood, then test everybody's DNA against the freaking envelope.
They have to find good reason though to do the testing, like, right?
But I mean, the letter itself specifies it could be somebody like if you have nothing to hide, what difference does it make if you give them a little bit of DNA?
No, I agree, and it's. But like as you said, that what if it is like an elaborate hoax and that it's we need the DNA of like family or friends or.
Well, I just mean more in the sense that like the more people you clear, the better in my mind.
Yeah, but what if it's like it could be just somebody in the town, maybe like not even in the neighborhood.
I mean, that's what I think it probably, or even like in a neighboring town as well, like it's somewhere like within the general area.
I would love to know more about the house's history, so like not even just the previous owner, but like. When it was built, kind of why that house is special.
It was in the 1800s, I think.
But like it's an old house. Mm-hmm. But what makes this house special on the block?
Oh, it was built in 1905.
So it's over 100 years old.
That's true.
But like, a lot of houses in Westfield are over 100 years old.
That's true.
So like, but like, what makes 657?
That's what makes this one scary, is that there's really probably nothing special about it.
It's just like,
and if it is somebody just trying to fuck with somebody, they probably saw this. They probably saw the sign. Mm-hmm. Sent like the first letter, because they did mention that they only received the one letter, the previous owners, and then just kind of decided to fuck with the new owners. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Who knows? Yeah, that's freaky.
That's a creepy one.
Yeah.
Well.
That's it for our
it for urban legends, and I'm severely creeped out.
Yeah, me too. I mean, these ones it's hard because a lot of the ones that like minus the one you told about the
painting,
the pedophile hands one.
The hands resist him.
Yeah, with the little kid boy or whatever with the hands in the glass behind him, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I had never heard that one.
I want to do some more research on like haunted paintings and stuff like that.
That's an interesting one.
Not just Ghostbusters.
Yeah, not Vigo. It is Vigo, right?
Something like that.
I think it's Vigo.
I haven't watched it in a while.
I just imagine what's his name? Something like Nicholson. I can't remember what his name is, but he's like Vigo. It's like
I love the concept of like haunted media, which I think we need to get into in another episode.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you talked about. Oh wait, I can't remember. Never mind. Totally off topic. Sorry. Never mind. Forgive me. I'm tired.
But yeah, I think there's something there. There's something, because we consume media on a daily basis, like our phones, TV, books.
Like Poltergeist.
It's like Poltergeist, but not Poltergeist.
They're in the TV.
Oh man, that freaked me out for a while.
Poltergeist?
Yeah.
That's a fucking freaky movie.
Yeah. But more to talk about another day. But I hope you enjoyed being creeped out.
Yeah, I hope this met your expectations.
And we'll see you next time to talk about worst ways to die.
I think that's our next one, right?
Yeah, which is also very creepy, which fits the theme of This Creeps Me Out.
Yeah, right on brand.
So we'll see you next time.
Yeah, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
There were exceptions, of course. Every now and then a single thread persisted, grew thick and gnarled and unkillable. Conspiracy theories and urban legends, the hooks embedded in popular songs, the comforting Easter Bunny lies of religious doctrine. These were the memes, viral concepts, infections of conscious thought. Some flared and died like mayflies. Others lasted 1,000 years or more, trickled billions into the endless propagation of parasitic half-truths. This quote is attributed to Peter Watts from Maelstrom.